Should I introduce us as the Defiance Daily Show, the He-Man Woman?
Second one.
Second one.
Okay, there you go. Let's go with the first episode of the He-Man Woman Haters Club International.
Well, folks, thank you for tuning in to the Defiance Daily Show. This is Travis Roberts and Mark Pruitt.
He chickened out.
We're sitting here with Lily Kate with our special segment called the He-Man Woman Haters Club. Everybody.
He didn't chicken out.
He said it.
Listen, you got to let me go. You got to let me roll. Now I got to do it again,
Let
man.
him cook. Let him cook.
I got to let it do it again.
No, you know, you're good.
No, we're good here. But no, we're joined in studio by a prominent member of the He-Man Woman Haters Club. That is Lily Kate. Lily Kate, thank you for being in studio with these stinky gentlemen.
Me.
Yes.
How fun.
Lily Kate, there's a lot of here. I'll put the camera back to me real quick because we're gonna do introductions. We'll do the simple stuff. But you know, we brought you in here today because Mark has been getting a lot of feedback from our audience about
A lot of hate mail.
his radical
Traditional
stances on traditional values, femininity, and he's been upsetting a lot of people's, and there have been calls to get him off our show because he's rabidly anti-woman.
Justice for Mark.
I'm really curious to see, you know, how much you're going to loathe him after this interview, and I think we're in for a really good interview today. So thank you so much, Lily Kate.
Thank you.
Yes,
For joining
thank you,
us.
Lily. We have so been looking forward to this.
We have Lily.
Seriously, we are.
Go
fired
ahead
up.
and introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself, and let's get it going.
Yeah, well, I'm Lily Kate. I've lived in Texas my whole life. I was homeschooled, didn't want to go to college. I have done political content, commentary, influencing for a couple of years now. And during COVID, people would blame things on the feminists, and I never understood why. So I tried to find a person who could tell me why feminism was so worthy of all this blame, and I couldn't find a person to tell me that. So I decided I'd become that person. I spent the last basically 3.5 years reading all of the original source material, going through the history of feminism, and now I'm writing a book called We Can't Do It, 50 Ways Feminism is a Failure and Why Femininity is the True Key to Empowerment. And we are almost actually finished with the book, which is super exciting, but it's going to be a commentary that is unveiling a lot of the truth that you probably didn't learn about feminism because it takes way more credit for all the things that it says is accomplished than is actually due. We talk about the way that feminism is based off of a four-way contradiction, modern, you know, what we know to be modern feminism now. We then also talk about how feminism has to continue spinning lies to keep women in the clutches of feminism, and then how those lies hurt men, women, and children. And then finally, we find ourselves back in the garden in the book, and we realize that feminism has actually been this way since the beginning, and it is largely the institutionalization of Eve's curse.
Whoa.
That's
Now,
a
to
lot
me,
of stuff right there, brother.
what I just heard is you're like one of these radical people. You're like one of these dangerous people, and you're like Mark.
If you're planning on calling Mark to get him canceled, you might as well just add my name in there.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us in studio at Defiance headquarters here. Very excited to have you. Very excited to talk to you and ask some questions. Now, Mark, I know you've been dying for this one. So, and I just realized, I guess we're live, so that's okay.
We are live.
Yep, looks like it, buddy.
Fired
looks-
up. Hey,
looks
let's-
like it.
Amazing.
Game on. Okay.
Mark, go ahead and kick off some questions for us.
Well, first of all, and again, man, I was so thrilled to connect with you, Lily, through Steve Toth, and he just had so many wonderful things to say about you. Then I got to talk to you on the phone, and just instantly was like, number one, you're sincere, and I could just tell you were just a good person. I hate to use that term "good vibe" or something because that's just so. But I could just tell that you're a sincere person and that God has a plan for you. And so number one, I'm super excited about your book, and we hope to talk to you a little bit about that, and then about you coming on the show. And it takes a lot of courage. I know you probably take a lot of heat. I thought what was the term you used? You're a gender traitor. Is that what?
Yeah. Because I'm a woman, people think I'm obligated to be a feminist, and I'm like, no. Why
So
do
that
I
you hate women, right?
Yeah.
You hate women, right?
Well, they call me not a real woman.
Oh.
Yeah, which is a crazy one to me because I'm like, why do I have to be a feminist to be a real woman?
And these are
Makes
it's
no
probably
sense
coming
to
from
me.
people that don't even know how to define
So every
what a
woman
woman
before
is.
the year
Right.
1820 basically is not a real woman because we didn't have the term feminism, which was only coined in 1837 by a French philosopher. Like, okay, interesting.
Man, I'm learning new things every day.
Yeah, no, that it's so interesting that you use those dates, and thank God you've done your homework and you've studied this, because people are oftentimes shocked when I mention that feminism didn't start in the 60s. Oh, yes, it did. Gloria Steinem. And I'm like, well, she's a product of, okay. And then but first of all, you mentioned 1820. What was it in 1820 that you can look at where you can kind of put a pin and say, this is kind of the beginning? First of all, who's behind the feminist movement? Who's behind this?
The first woman that we know who is a big, or what would turn into a feminist activist, is Mary Wollstonecraft.
Oh,
And
yes.
she had a really tragic, a very, very tragic personal life. She had a couple of children die. She had a number of marriages, and they all went very, very sour. And then she died quickly after childbirth by giving birth to the woman who would become Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. Yeah. And so Mary Wollstonecraft was a very troubled woman, had a very, very horrible dad. And she dedicated herself to a lot of study and quickly became the revolutionary type. And so the crux of her writings is she believes that we should look at people not in terms of their sex. We should just look at human beings because we should look at human beings instead of looking at them male or female, which is already categorically erasing the category of women or woman, which is what feminism actually does now. But then, so her writings very much influenced Mary Shelley and she married Percy Shelley, and that's where she got the name. And Percy Shelley was a romantic poet, and here's where feminism really took her ideas and ran. It's because and I'm giving a very broad overview because we go through a lot of this in great detail in my book, but Percy Shelley had this vision for what culture should be and what society should be, and he based it off of essentially saying that Satan is the great liberator of women because he didn't like God's hierarchy in the garden and went to Eve first. And therefore, Satan actually just wanted something enlightened and better for Eve than what God had actually planned for them in the garden. And so these romantic poets, and then Mary Shelley obviously has a very transhumanist view of the world and wrote a lot about that, which is very influential in feminism today. So, from these two influential thinkers, this is really where feminism, or what we know to be the beginnings of the movement, actually started. And so, what I glean from that is I'm like, okay, so they're sympathetic to the devil and they want to erase sex difference. That's what I hear about their major writings. And essentially, it's kind of what we see today with modern feminism.
That's so interesting. Also, a lot of these statues, and I think people are probably familiar with these because the Church of Satan has begun to erect them in different cities across the country. The person or the thing sitting on the throne with the goat head,
the woman's torso,
male body, but then female breast, the kind of,
and then goat.
Yeah,
legs.
the goat head, and then of course
There's
a lot of
hooves,
pentagrams and the hooves. It really, this is not by coincidence, is it?
No, not at all. And God's design is to have man and woman. We know this from the very, very beginning. We know this from literally Genesis 2. And feminism has continually and over time idolized the masculine. I was actually writing about this last night. Feminism essentially wants to turn women into weaker men. So what do I mean by that? Feminism pushed abortion, You can't have feminism without abortion. You can't have feminism without birth control either. And you can't have, and the president of NOW, which is the National Organization for Women, believes that you should be able to draft both men and women in the name of equality, which I don't know how many feminists would actually go for that. They'd probably say, that's enough equality for me today. But essentially, when you have birth control, right, you are nullifying a woman's monthly hormonal cycle, which is the way that God created her. The ups and downs, all part of it. You have abortion, which is one of the most unique things a woman, pregnancy is one of the most unique things a woman can experience, and abortion is taking that away, right? Women typically didn't have to experience combat on the front lines for war, but feminism wants to nix that as well because they believe in the name of equality that women should actually be drafted in some cases. And so as I'm writing about this, I'm thinking, you know what? Feminism really wants to turn women into men or weaker men, or for women to have a faux experience of being a man. And I just think that's really interesting because we see that even the demon legion in the Bible wanted to erase, well, not only refer to themselves as they and them, which is like super interesting, but you see the core of feminism wanting to erase sex difference. And we've found lots of technological ways and a lot of political ways to do that in the current day.
Isn't that it's so fascinating. And they've had a long-term vision. This isn't something that's happened overnight. Most people in modern America today, they think the feminist movement started in the 60s. We know it started way before that. So how in the world did we as a society buy into this? How did we accept this? Because it's insane. It's literally insane. How was this foisted upon the American population starting back in the 1800s to slowly and gradually get us to accept this?
It's a concept creep because feminism, as we all know, has gone through a series of different waves. And you have first wave feminism, which was about a 140-year movement, which the only entire goal of that was getting women the right to vote. And just to put it out there and get ahead of myself, I'm never going to advocate for women to not have the right to vote. I think that'd be wildly impractical. That's just red meat for people to get mad at me about. That's what our society has. And, I don't think every person should be able to vote. I think you should meet a certain amount of criteria potentially to vote. So there's that. But so I'm never going to advocate for taking away women's right to vote because it's just not something I ever want to spend time on. But the first wave of what we call feminism, which was really suffrage, was getting women the right to vote. And then coming out of World War I, you see the 1920s happen and feminism kind of stalls because they don't really have a goal. They don't really have anything they're trying to accomplish. And then, excuse me, the Second World War happens, and feminism on the very edge of the Second World War with the peace of the 1950s, that's when a lot of the decadence of the second wave feminism starts happening because women got into academia in the 1950s, and then the 1960s they start pushing for a lot of different things. One, you have the technological advancement of birth control, which people said, oh, well, birth control is going to decrease the amount of unwanted pregnancies that happen, which is completely not true. The exact opposite happened. You had the legalization of abortion because of the advent of birth control. You have women getting into academia. And at the same time, in academia, you have this, and this is not attributed to feminism, but it got applied to feminism. And so what I mean by that is you have Marxism, that is this financial principle that starts becoming applied to many different cultural ideas. The Marxist principle of the finance is that you have the bourgeoisie, you have the people who own the means of production, and then the people who are on the underclass need to get consciousness and overthrow the upper class or the people who own, because the revolution just has to be continual. And that's what Marxism wants to do. And so you see in the 1950s and 60s through academia, so many of these Marxist, there's the oppressor and the oppressed, that gets applied to many different sects of culture, that gets applied to feminism too. So now you have this movement that is framed, the framing of feminism actually changed. It's framed as women are the oppressed and men are the oppressors. And in Marxist theory, what is the oppressed person supposed to do? They are supposed to overthrow the person that is oppressing them. Yep. So that really laid the foundation for the framing of modern feminism. On top of that, you had legislative goals or certain goals that feminism wanted to accomplish, making abortion legal, which they got, making birth control, very, very common and over the counter, which they also got, and then getting women into the workforce, which is something else they also got too. And so you see this reframing and these goals that are attached to feminism, and most people begin identifying that as second wave feminism in the 1950s, the buddings of it in the 1950s, then into the 1960s and 70s. So to answer your original question, how did this happen? It is a concept creep, and with radical ideas, the goalposts only get farther and farther and farther, and the more radical people, speakers, ideas always rise to the top because they typically are the loudest. And in my book, we talk about a lot of the really, really nefarious and loud and obnoxious ways that feminists have gone about raising awareness for their feminist messaging.
That was a awesome answer, by the way. So this is obviously a very knowledgeable guest we have on. So if you do have questions, feel free to pop in and ask at any time.
Please do.
One of the things that's kind of the inherent the products of this third wave feminist movement. A lot of culture, I know, has been desensitized to a large degree. Can you speak to some of the statistics on the fallout of this movement and how it's impacted our society?
Yeah. When I have conversations with feminists, I say, they're like, feminism is, you wouldn't be able to even do anything that you do without feminism. I'm like, okay, fine. Yeah, I have more choices today, but everyone in society has more choices than they did in the 1950s, right? Everyone has. And so feminism often takes credit, and this is a theme that you'll see all the time. I actually got a DM last night of this woman saying, I was doing a story post, and I was wearing like a sleeveless top, and I was walking around my neighborhood. And she DMs me, and she's like, do you realize that you wouldn't even be able to wear a shirt that doesn't have sleeves without feminism? And I'm like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Just like, it's just so wild because people attribute so much of their own autonomy to feminism, but it's not accurate. And so, yeah, when I talk to feminists, I ask them this basic question. I say, what are the goals of feminism? And generally their answers are somewhere in the ballpark of feminism wanted to give women freedom and also wanted to give women happiness. Those are the two like major ballparks of answers.
Really?
Well, I mean, they say this by, well, if women have access to abortion, or if women have access to the workforce, or if women have more rights, they will be what? Happier. They will be more free. And so I ask them, I say, well, do you think that feminism has done that for women? And of course they say yes. And I say, well, by all available metrics, women are actually not happier than they were, especially since
they sure
the 1960s.
Don't act like it.
Yeah, they're more mentally ill, they're more suicidal, more depressed, more anxious, not getting married faster, have lower church attendance or religious involvement. There is far more witchcraft in America than in the whole westernized world that people really want to give credit to. A lot of women rely on horoscopes and crystals and tarot reading and just any kind of other form of medium outside of like actually worshiping Christ for their predictiveness of the future. Women are not doing better. So I say that, and that's an easy, everybody knows that women aren't really doing that well, honestly, in society. So everybody kind of, and the feminists say, yeah, well, you might be right about some of those things. But I say, okay, but has feminism actually made women more free? Like I said, yeah, I have more choices. I have more options. I could go to H-E-B or Kroger or Buc-ee's and get all the same stuff. Great. But did feminism accomplish that for me? No. The free market, capitalism accomplished that for me. And do women have more ability to exist in common society? You could argue that feminists got women those things, but I could tell you, and we track this through my book, that because of the radicalism and the militance and the violence and the crazy tactics that feminists actually employ to try and accomplish these things, it is very well documented that women got the right to vote probably 20, 30 years slower in the United States than in Britain because of the terror.
So you touched on something that I think is really important, and it's just so inherently evil to me when you got the comment that you wouldn't be able to walk down the street in a shirt that you were wearing without feminism, and then this bucking of picking the bear or the man, this whole argument with this kind of stuff. Now, how evil is it in your estimation? Obviously, we want the background too, because you got the goods clearly, but just absolutely bucking a traditional role in what men are supposed to do in their protective duty to the innocent and everything, and now just convincing women that no, you don't need that. Go ahead and pick the bear. Because women hear me roar, we don't need protection or we don't need any of this kind of stuff when this is absolutely a godly duty to do these kinds of things. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, those are luxury beliefs. And
What do you mean by that, luxury beliefs?
our society is so rich and safe and comfortable that women actually think,
Yeah.
they actually have the delusion to think that they would be better off in a forest alone in the dark with a bear rather than a man. I mean, do you realize how insane that is? And so feminism is, I say, largely a product of the wealth of the United States and the Western world generally, because in third world countries, you really don't have these luxury beliefs of feminism because they're so not based in reality. They're so not practical. I mean, getting women into the workforce is wildly impractical for the stability of society. And you'll notice that a lot of poorer countries or countries in development don't focus on feminism or women's rights or changing women's role in society because they know that they know that it's a foundational role. And so when I look at a society that's decaying, it's usually because of decadence. And we have France all throughout history to show us this exact point.
Amen.
Because they're just always been a decadent society and always are in some form of state of decay ever since, I don't know, the 1700s or longer. And so, I look at this and I'm like, look what our wealth has brought us to. Women actually think, women believe the superhero movie, they believe that they are Scarlett Johansson and can be 5'3" and overthrow a guy with a kick. I'm like, girl, you've clearly actually never thought practically about having to defend yourself. And if you did, you'd get a gun because guns are the great equalizer, as Annie Oakley said, between men and women. So, yeah.
Yeah, and speak to that. We're seeing that in the culture, in the entertainment culture especially. A lot of the new material coming out, it's specifically focused on this
girl boss,
superhero, super strength for sure. Speak to that a little bit. The entertainment industry's role in pushing this narrative.
Yeah, it's been a big thing because you have every rom-com is about a woman cheating on a guy or breaking up a marriage to get her true love. It's all about women having
Amen.
this.
Yep.
I never thought about it
No,
like
that's
that.
true.
The Notebook,
all of them. No,
dude.
all of them.
The Notebook is the worst movie.
It's
Okay,
the worst movie.
here's why it's the worst movie. It got
Here
me
we
so
go.
fired up.
Yes.
The Notebook is the worst movie because she ends up going for this guy who's such a bum. And the guy who, I don't remember even their names because I haven't watched in a long time, but the man who was engaged to her that the family approved of, the family liked, he was a good man. He was polite. He was doing relatively well for himself. And after she abandoned the wedding party or whatever, and he went to find her, it's not that he was some just super arrogant, aloof guy who didn't care about her. He actually did. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing because this is encouraging women to give up good men for the ideal of someone else who is, he's more
boy.
poetic. Oh, he has better vocal abilities. I'm like, well, that's just such a stupid message. And I get that it's it's true love and okay, fine. But she shouldn't have given up the guy who loved her so well and would provide a beautiful life for her and her family, who would provide harmony in her family with her in-laws because they actually liked him, the guy who actually made something of himself. Why wouldn't you go for that guy instead of the guy who never left the same house? And I don't think he has a job for the whole movie.
I'll never
that
look
that's
at the
everything.
Notebook.
Oh, no.
That's so
It's
crazy.
so true. This is so
And it
true.
is.
Not
all-
that a
all of
job
it.
for a guy is everything, but to encourage masculinity, to encourage a masculine man, you have to have a feminine woman to inspire you to do that. And the relationship that she opts for in the end is not a reflection of that. And so that's why I think it's transgressive. And yeah, it's supposed to be a tearjerker because, oh, he's reading to her every single day, and, in the house, and she has dementia. And like, that's really sweet. And, oh, he was the true love. And all that's fine. But I really think she made a bad decision in the end.
Well, she cheated on him. She cheated.
She cheated. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that was celebrated. The other thing is, too, is one of the series under the Yellowstone, the prequel, I think it's 1923.
The Harrison Ford
the one. No, not. It was part of the prequel to Yellowstone, 1923, and that whole. Did you see it? You know what I'm talking about? And that whole season was based on what? The girl had the family. She was engaged, all this stuff, and then the guy that shows up, that's the wild game hunter and then she cheats on the guy she's going to get married to, runs off with this guy, ends up dying in the end. But at the end of the day,
woman ends up dying, or the guy?
No, the girl ends up dying in the end. It's a good thing, but you're so
It's a good
right.
thing.
It's a good thing.
No, it's a good.
Talking
no,
about
no,
Mark.
that's not a good thing. It's a good show. I mean,
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
but the point is, and Lily, I'm so glad you bring this up because this is the message that's coming across to especially young women over and over and over and over again.
It's the upgrade mentality.
A lot of these,
And it's never an upgrade, is it?
No, yeah, exactly.
No, it's always a trade-off. Everything's a trade-off. But like, I was watching this TikTok of this very beautiful woman, and she was announcing that she's getting a divorce. And in the TikTok, she says, "My husband has never done anything wrong.
Yep.
He is so kind. He is so sweet. He's always provided for me. We have 3 children together who are amazing." She lists like all of these incredible qualities that any like single woman would kill for. And then she's like, "But I feel like I just need to find myself and
Oh
like
my
just go
God.
like
Those are
be
not
free
uncommon.
for a little bit."
Kids?
Yeah, right. And it's so sad.
Oh no.
And it's just crazy to me because I'm like, you have everything. And then you're going to give it up for this crazy detached ideal that's completely unrealistic and at large really horrible for society, but it's also selfish because you're ruining your child's family. Like you're ruining it's actually proven that children are more damaged from a divorce than a parent dying.
Yes,
That's
I believe
wild.
that.
But honestly, I'm not surprised by that.
And feminism has always been anti-marriage. Back in 1918, an anonymous suffragette wrote a column and published it, giving advice to young women about marriage. Okay, the first thing, it's like 5 points. The first thing, do not marry at all, is the advice.
Oh my God.
And then after that, it's if you have to, you need to understand that like basically treat him like an animal. He needs food, and he needs very, very basic things to be covered. And then, it says watch out for drunks and cheaters and all those things, which is perfectly fair advice. But the first line for marriage advice in this anonymous column from a suffragette is don't get married at all. It's actually better if you don't. And many times in the 20th century, feminists would advocate and would start living with each other in covens, is what they called it, interestingly enough, simply just to buck the system and not live with a man in marriage or not ever get married to a man, or they would promote lesbianism just as a way to destroy the patriarchy. And I'm like, if your motivation to destroy the patriarchy is promoting everything that is godless, then we need to take a look at that movement and ask the very serious questions about it. Like, has it really accomplished what it's done? And no, I think it hasn't. It's completely failed. So my goals with my book, or one of my goals with the book, is for America to finally get to a place where we say, you know what? Why this idea, we tried it and it really, really had bad consequences and it kind of failed. And so we're not going to do that again. Let's just move on from it. I'm not trying to, put women back in the home per se. I think many women would be a lot happier if they chose a life of servanthood, motherhood, and traditionalism. But I just want America to see feminism and say, we tried it, it failed, let's figure something else out.
Simple enough. I mean, it's broke. It doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. You spoke to something earlier about femininity and how it empowers kind of a masculine trajectory for a man. I've got a wife who is extremely feminine, and I can't. There's so many avenues we can go down talking about this, but that approach, because honestly, she really is the first female I've been around that actually has a genuine or that I've been with in a serious capacity, that a genuine femininity to her, and it does something to you as a man, especially after you have kids. I've got two, and I can't explain the way
You're inspired.
the power that comes with that. There is nothing I can't do anymore because of that. And so can you speak to, what is femininity and what is the importance of it, and how does that how important is it, not just for the United States, but for the human species as a whole?
Is my favorite question ever. Couple things here. Most people are going to assume that I am going to paint a trad wife picture of femininity and say, this is how it's going to look. I'm sorry to disappoint you. That's not what I'm going to do. I was talking to Michael Knowles, and I said, Michael, what is femininity? And he was like, I can't give you an essential definition, but what I can tell you is that femininity is sugar, spice, and everything nice. And I thought that was the most wonderful definition. It's so Michael Knowles. But femininity is not, I'll start out by saying what it's not, because this will better help us understand what it is. Femininity is not a sundress. It's not sourdough bread. It's not having 8+ children, which is like rookie numbers in the homeschool community, mind you. I would know. I come from the homeschool community. It's not a costume. It's not long hair. It's not all of these things on the surface. And very similarly, it's not drag makeup. It's not putting on a really glitz and glamorous dress. Because both on the extreme right and the extreme left, the pictures of femininity are just costumes. When I was first on this journey, I was sitting by my parents' pool, and I was just tanning, reading outside. And I thought to myself, what is femininity? Okay. And I was thinking to myself, well, I guess, let's start off what it is. Femininity is like cooking, cleaning, serving. That's a woman's role. And then I said, masculinity is like hauling logs or like lifting things, being strong, being brutish, right? So I look up at my dad, and he's in the outdoor kitchen cleaning and cooking. He has his apron on, and he is just living his best life. And then I look over to my mom, and I kid you not, she has a headlamp on because it's getting dark outside. She's hauling these logs and burning them in a pit. And I'm like, well, my dad isn't any less masculine because he's doing womanly things. So my mom is not any less feminine because she's doing manly things, right? So again, femininity is something more than what we've all been told that it is, and masculinity as well. So in my journey, I've come to this definition. Femininity is when a woman is expressing the fruits of the Spirit. And masculinity is when a man is expressing the fruits of the Spirit. Period. End of story. It's not a costume. It's not a certain set of behaviors. It's not a trajectory naturally that you choose with your life, even though there is a very good trajectory that you could choose. And feminism does not want you to choose that. But femininity really is when a woman is expressing the fruits of the Spirit, because here's why. God is so cool that he has made the way that you interact with people, the way your personality is expressed in the world as a woman. There are billions of different types of personalities. But since you are a woman biologically, when you express the fruits of the Spirit, you are the most feminine version of yourself. When you're a man and you express the fruits of the Spirit, you are the most masculine version of yourself. Women who are the most feminine are the most God-fearing, who are the most kind, the most loving, the most joyful, the most peaceful, the most gentle, the most faithful, the most self-controlled, all of the fruits of the Spirit. And so, again, it's not a costume. It's not a certain way you look. It is completely the expression of your faith. And you don't have to try. You don't have to work to do it, because you are a woman. And as you express the fruits of the Spirit, you will be the most feminine version of yourself. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does. It absolutely does.
That's wonderful. That's amazing.
Yeah, because I want to compound on that a little bit, because I've explained it to her as it's her nature being angelic, and I don't put that term lightly, because that is the only way I can explain it. Yes, the nurturing element to it, the forgiveness aspect to it. When I know I'm being taken care of as I'm just telling you, there's something that it does to a man. It just makes you proud to fight. It makes you proud to, know you would do anything for your family, and you got a good woman to come home to. And nothing's ever perfect. Nothing's ever easy. But when there's purpose to it, when you have purpose, when you got a good female in your life, as a man, just speaking as a man, I can't tell you what it does from a perspective of influence and purpose and power and good power.
Yeah.
Good influence
Inspiration. I always say,
around those around you.
yeah, femininity inspires masculinity, and masculinity inspires femininity. So there's not one that has to necessarily come first. Is that there are forces that just keep continuing around each other, and that's what's really beautiful. Is that if you are trying to reach the fullness of your faith and expressing the fruits of the Spirit, then you will be the heightened version of yourself, and you will therefore attract that. So many feminist women are looking for hyper-masculine men, but little do they realize that running toward a masculine archetype for themselves, for their own life and their own expression, is not going to get them the masculine man that they're looking for. They're going to find someone who is more beta, and that's not what feminists want, because then they dominate over the men, and it's just not awesome. But it's such a beautiful picture, and I have full faith that the Lord always fills in the rest. If you are just expressing, like I keep saying, the fruits of the Spirit, you will be the most aligned. And to use that term, I know it's so ooh-woo and new agey, but you actually will be the most aligned version of yourself. So much of the animosity that feminists constantly live in, and actually I would say weak men live in, is because they're actually out of alignment with the way that God intended the expression of their personalities to be. If a man does not feel masculine, he's insecure and internally conflicted. If a woman is not feminine, she is angry and bitter and resentful toward the world and internally conflicted. And that's where feminism comes in and just capitalizes on not only the hurt of a broken woman who has been hurt by a man, who's been hurt by her dad or a boyfriend or a brother or whoever, right? It capitalizes on the hurt, but it also just takes that, I'm going to remove you from your power source, and runs with it. If feminism was really truly pro-woman, then it wouldn't be encouraging women to be men. It would be encouraging women to be the most feminine versions of themselves. But of course, feminists never do that, because they think that's weak, pointless. Motherhood is pointless. Marriage is pointless. They say all of these kinds of things because why? They actually want to destroy. It's a regressive movement. It wants to destroy society. And so, any movement that wants to destroy society is going to remove men and women's actual purposes from the alignment of their lives and make them so confused, so conflicted, so based in non-reality that they can own you then. Because if feminism can, and this is just one example, can simultaneously say men are trash but women are also equal to men, those are two completely contradictory ideas that they're sprouting. And if you can hold both of those in your head at the same time, you know what? They can control you. If you believe two completely opposing things, then you are extremely easy to control. And that's what feminism does to women and men.
And then, of course, the fallout to this, right? When you're teaching these evil avenues and bucking really against your human nature and how God intended you to be, there are repercussions to this. We covered this a little bit on today's show. Some of these awful stories that it's really hard for me personally to wrap my head around how some things can happen. I don't want to repeat that story earlier, but essentially, a mom, a 5-year-old girl, getting,
brutalized.
Oh man, it's awful. But essentially, she dropped her 5-year-old daughter off at a family member's home, and then the family member she dropped her off with, I guess, lost sight of her, and then an 8, 9, and 10-year-old boy sexually tortured, abused, nearly killed her, scalped her, and this really did something to me reading it, because the shocking part of an 8, 9, and 10-year-old boys, how you can't deny the influence that these evil movements like feminism, they are evil. I mean, stuff like that doesn't happen around real masculine areas where there's masculinity involved. Real masculine men are really just men in general. They don't allow this thing to happen. So it's really just trying to wrap your head around, how does something like this happen?
Wow.
So again, this fallout in society, speak to how worse off we are today when you hear stories like that, and speak to some of the cost of life and everything in between there.
I think it was 9 months ago. I was scrolling on the Daily Mail and saw a headline that said, "Woman arrested after throwing her baby out of a window, she said to keep her job at Porsche."
Oh my God.
Her executive title. And I honestly clicked on it because I was like, there's no way. I know how fake headlines are. There's no way this is true. Those are one of the most factual stories I've ever read. She admitted to it. She said, "My baby ruined my life. I want to keep my job title." She's in the UK. And I accidentally dropped the baby out of a window and showed no remorse. So everybody's like, how did you drop a baby out of the window? And that's a very extreme example of what feminism does. But as many pro-life commentators talk about, they say, feminism, abortion is like the sacrament of, or infanticide really, is the sacrament of Satan. Because I'm going to sacrifice my child for my personal gain. Whereas we know Christ says, I'm going to sacrifice myself for you.
That's right.
And if you have a movement that is just promoting sacrificing actual people for the advancement of your career or on the altar of materialism, then that is a movement that is completely anti-life, and it's no shock. It was not a shock to me that Elizabeth Cady Stanton, who is a big influential feminist thinker, wrote something called the Woman's Bible, where she essentially provides a literary commentary, which is a lot of the authors who provided commentary in that are extremely questionable, but basically trying to reinterpret in mental gymnastics a woman's, the reader's way out of having to adhere to a lot of the preachings that the Bible commands women to do. And so most feminist thinkers, especially the early ones, hated Christianity, hated it. They said the church is transgressive and is only an institution to promote males and keep women subjugated. Which we know that if you actually read the Bible in context, it was radically freeing of women, especially in the Roman Empire and especially with Paul's writings. But we can go into that a little bit later. But from the beginning, feminism has been extremely anti-life, has been satanic, not in a way where, like, I think feminists are around, like, drinking each other's blood. I wouldn't put it past them sometimes, honestly. But it is satanic in a way where it inverts the way that God has created the world, and it inverts everything that he said that is good. The relationship between man and woman, the relationship between woman and child, and the relationship between masculine and feminine have all been confused because of feminism. And now you have women throwing their children out of windows to keep their 3-letter job titles.
That is quite the example. I mean, if that doesn't summarize it in one pretty awful story, I don't know what does. Mark, I see your notebook opening over there. I know you got some questions, don't you?
Oh, no. It's really, it's horrific. And you've mentioned Satan's name here on some of this, and a lot of people do not realize that on the early days of feminism, the occult, Satanism, witchcraft, seances, fortune tellers, a lot of Hinduism, a lot of yoga, different things like this. Those fingerprints are all over the feminist movement, and up until present day, actually. Yeah. All this, when you hear this, speak it into the universe, my truth, things like this all has the origins in the occult and in Satanism and witchcraft and these things. Did you, when you're studying early feminism, did you see that the occult was right in there with the whole process and how that got started? And how active were like Susan B. Anthony's and people like this involved in the occult?
Yeah, we're researching that right now for my book, so I probably don't have anything amazing and groundbreaking to say that is not already common knowledge. But yeah, you see a lot of goddess worship. You see a lot of anti-Christian sentiment, occult, witchcraft, Wicca. Wicca is extremely popular now.
Yeah.
You see these women grasping for anything. Anything other than the church structure, because why do they not want the truth? Because their movement is based off of disorder. And so if you have the truth is very simple. The truth is also very aggressive, which is nice because we don't have to present it in an aggressive way because the truth is aggressive enough. The truth is very clear, it's very straightforward, and a movement that is looking to lie to women, to lie to men, lie to children, to keep them entwined, to keep them enslaved, really. That's a movement that has to deny the truth. And so what does the world provide as alternatives to Christianity? Well, you could go to different religions, or you could go to goddess worship, or you could go to tarot cards, or Ouija boards, or witchcraft. I mean,
anything but God.
Yeah, essentially. And to bring up a very, very fresh example, of course, and I want to preface this by saying in no way do I think these people are responsible for what happened, okay? But on September 8th, 2025, there's a headline that came out from the website Jezebel.
That's right.
That said, we paid some Etsy witches to curse Charlie Kirk. And I read the entire article before they took it down, and I actually have the whole thing because I went on the Wayback Machine, and you can't take anything really off the internet. So if you want the original text of that article, I have all of it. Just reach out to me on Instagram. I can get it to you. But it goes through how this woman goes on Etsy and she buys a bunch of different types of curses. Curses that will make everybody hate Charlie Kirk. Curses that will make him have a bad day. Curses that will give him extraordinary amounts of unluckiness. And she buys these, and it basically tracks how for the next 2 weeks, all of these different witches are carrying out these certain rituals. And then we all have seen the video. We all know what happened. And again, I'm not saying that it is because of these curses or these random witches that Charlie Kirk was assassinated. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it is interesting that these kinds of women who hated men like Charlie Kirk would grasp at online services to buy them curses and spells and hexes and pay tons of money just to harm someone is really, really interesting to me. These are women who are lost. These are women who are grasping at random things and simply want to cause chaos in the world. And Christian women, as fallen as we all are, we try not to cause as much chaos as feminists do. We often fail at it, of course, but feminism is a movement of transgression. It's a movement of chaos. It's a movement of disorder. And it's a movement that turns hierarchy, the hierarchy that God established on his head. And what does that make you do? It makes you rely on the powers of the world, which is witchcraft.
And again, with this kind of thing, I mean, I think it speaks volumes to the intent behind it. I mean, the fact that you would go out of your own way to do something like that. And look, me personally, I've had some very strange experiences, to say the least. You can't deny this spiritual stuff. You just can't do it. Now, people that are a little more on the atheist side, or maybe they're more secular, I guess, think this stuff is all just fun and games, and it's fun to talk about, but there's no real basis in reality. I'll tell you, at one point in my life, I was kind of like that. But when you're approached with it, you'll never, it does come to you eventually. Now, it could be way down the road. It could be early in life. I think there was a reason certain things happened to me early in life, so I could be right here, sitting in here, talking to Lily Kate with Mark and Chris over there from good old Oklahoma. So I think, no, this, and I know it devastated, because I was seeing, I think it was Megyn Kelly that was talking about it, how this absolutely terrified Erica Kirk.
Yep.
This just absolutely mortified her. And to say there is a spiritual battle, it's not hyperbole. That right there, what Lily's talking about, that's an exact example of what we're saying here. So
you can only worship the devil unironically for so long before it all hits you. And every person who has been involved with the occult will tell you that. Like, oh, it was fun and games, and it was just us being creepy and wearing weird outfits. And then you start noticing things happening. Because we are made in the image of God, with demonic spirits, you have to invite them. You have to invite them in. They're not, you can't just be possessed by a demon without completely welcoming it and opening that door. And good for us for being able to like not be possessed just like randomly by demons, because that would be really terrible. So anyone who has, experienced the occult, it's layers and layers and layers of invitation. And it's you showing up, you partaking. You have to actively pursue a relationship with the devil in the same way that you have to actively pursue a relationship with the Lord. God is so good, though, that even people who are involved in the occult, I believe he still protects them from so much of the darkness that they're involved in. He has such a good protective power. I recently went through a couple different crazy relationship situations, and reflecting on why a lot of them went south, I remind myself that before he was my savior, he was my father. And what does a good father do? It's God. He protects, especially his little girls. And I have felt that not only in my life, but I believe that for so many women who rely on spiritual darkness to navigate this very dark world, is that he sees them, he loves them, he knows that they're broken and hurting, and he knows that they're ignorant, and he's still going to protect them, even from themselves. And I think we can rely on that so much because of just how great God's character is. But yeah, before he was our savior, he was all of our father, and he loves us like a father. And I wish that feminists could just rest in that and see that, because that's really my heart. I can make funny videos online all day about how stupid feminism is and how this and wear the purple hair filter, and it's all great. And it's great for going viral. But in the end, I see feminists as women who have been damaged by men on this earth, who have not been protected by men well on this earth, who've been really, really hurt, and they're looking to the movement that promises them everything, but is going to take them farther away and make them stay longer in places they never wanted to stay.
Absolutely, yeah. And then on the opposite end of that, you've got these distractions for men that are absolutely taking them away from really anything naturally, whether from a sexual perspective or anything along those lines. And there is, you spoke to the choices about, letting these influences, these spiritual influences to you. There's a show I remember I used to watch fanatically called Paranormal Witness. Ooh. And there was a lot of these stories you heard where these people, just maybe one of them, I recall, he was just curious about a Ouija board. Him and his wife thought it was just cool little curiosity. Until that Ouija board started flying around on the board, and then right as they were trying to leave their home, it popped up with the flame on a little thing on the dial. Now, people can speculate whether these stories, some of the stories on that show, you can tell maybe a little bit, but this one in particular, because sometimes when it's opened up enough, I think you kind of get told who it is, and this one was a three-letter word. I don't like to even repeat the name. I know it's named after this amp I have over here, but which is saying something about that being right next to me. But and then there was another one, and she was into the Wiccanism, and she did the pentagrams and some of the most physically terrifying things happened to her by opening up to these things. This is the part of the show where this gets interesting. That's why we appreciate you being here and just kind of going through all these topics. But they are important topics. Now, these influences too, they come in the guise of compassion a lot of times. Now, a lot of that can be speaking to dead loved ones, and it is spoken about that there's always someone listening, and you've always got angels around you, but guess what? You always got some of the opposite. So some of the things you think, well, they wouldn't know that unless they were there. Well, it's not always something good that's there.
Yeah.
So whether you're talking about mediums, now I do think there's specific gifts that are given to people for reasons, but how they're used really opens up a lot more damage than what's probably intended.
Yeah.
And then, people with crystals or other type of mechanisms, it's everything that's meant to slowly open you up to decay. I guess my question is, do you have any wild stories that you know of or went through personally to, about this kind of where we're going down here, this rabbit hole? It's okay if you don't. If not, I'd say watch Paranormal Witness because there's some wild stuff on there.
Well, I'll tell you, my parents are amazing, and they homeschooled us, and I didn't go to college. I didn't need college. So,
Amen, sister. You're speaking my language.
it's the best way to be.
Amen.
Got a head start on life and no debt.
Yes.
So, growing up in the church, I was very, very shielded from those kinds of things. Very, very protected. I've heard stories about demonic activity and witchcraft and all of those things. I don't feel as if they are my stories to share.
Right.
What I will say is, to mention him again, Michael Knowles has a great side show to his normal show called Michael and. And if you just look up like Michael and, that's the name of his show. And he does interviews with people who have, and a lot of these are like very paranormal interviews, yoga, Wicca, witchcraft, exorcists, people like that who will really give you a great vision into how this kind of stuff works. So I've learned a lot from those interviews, learning how the spiritual realm really, really works. So fortunately, in my life, I've been protected from so much of that because of how incredible and amazing my parents are and the choices that they made to protect us as kids. And I believe that because of my parents' faith and because of their constant prayer over our properties, over us, over our house, that we truly weren't exposed to those kinds of things. But that doesn't mean I don't think they exist, of course. Going to Haiti, I went to Haiti actually right as they closed the European border. We weren't sure if we were going to get back in time in 2020. COVID was just starting to happen, and I was in Haiti. And I mean, they're very crazy stories. For 100 years, Haiti was dedicated to Satan. And in 2007, they were finally like, the population was like, okay, we've had enough. There's enough craziness going on here. But just stories after stories of places that would just, there's so much black magic. They would burst into flames, places that was just this like spirit of demonic possession, oppression, poverty, anger, tension, seeing scary beings in the forest, bad dreams, dreams coming true, all of these kinds of things, these spiritual realm things that you just can't be blind to it. You can't ever discount those kinds of things. And so far as you can, you just need to protect yourself from those things. I don't watch horror movies. I don't need to, because most of the time they're trash stories anyway, just like The Notebook. But you just don't need to fill your soul with that. You don't need to focus on those things. The Bible commands us to focus on things that are good and true and lovely and beautiful. And I really want to spend my life focusing on those things, because then I have light in my eyes. I have light around me, and I want to maintain that so that I'll be the best mom ever.
That was awesome, because that gives me some notes. I have a daughter named Lily too, so that gives me a lot of, we go back and forth about the homeschooling and Montessori schools, and I really don't want anybody around my kids at all, other than me and my wife and close family and all this stuff. And we're dedicating our life to getting more orientated with that part of it. But I do gotta say, there's something about you that does. You're very well spoken. You're extremely knowledgeable on these topics, and I do think that's a lot of credit to your parents on there. I think you can tell when you're around somebody. Do you mind me asking how old you are?
23.
Okay, you do not
No.
She does not come across like a 23-year-old, especially
she's
a
definitely not
non.
public
What you
school.
say you didn't go to college? Well, have you
She didn't
spoken
go
to
to public
kids from
school.
college? Do they sound anything
No, she didn't
like
go to public
Lily
school.
Kate?
My
Public
favorite-
school dumbs kids down.
My favorite interaction with someone from a college ever. So typically I start off my college events with an icebreaker game. I split the room in two, and I have a table in the middle, and I have a cup on the table. And I ask these students, conservative students typically, basic questions about American history or just like world history. And if you grab the cup, then you're able to say the answer. And so I ask the question, when was World War One? This girl grabs the cup and she goes, I'm going to take a random guess. And at that moment, you know it's going to be bad. I'm going to take a random guess. And then she says, 1746.
Oh boy.
And I was like, I started laughing because I thought she was being silly. I genuinely did. And then the whole room was like confused. And then it was silent. And I was like, oh, you're serious. And she's like, I don't know, it's a random guess. And I was like, so America wasn't even a thing then? Like, it wasn't even a
There
thing.
was no
No, this was a war.
My other favorite one on that same day, that was a very unique day. I was in Virginia. I ask, who was the third president of the United States? And another girl grabs the cup. And she goes, she counts on her fingers. And then she goes, Barack Obama.
Oh boy. Man, we
Doesn't shock
were
me.
literally
It's
born yesterday, were we not?
It was bad. It was so funny.
So I've got a question. I want to go back because you said something that's very, very powerful, and I think it's extremely important. And this is where I'm coming from on this because we've talked in, Band Haters Club and all this kind of stuff. And I'm actually, all this feminism stuff, it can appear and it can be easy to say, oh, we just put this all at women's feet and it's women's fault and women were stupid for falling for this. I don't look at it like that at all. I blame this 100%, not 99, 100% at the foot of men, period. End of story. It's man's fault. It's men's fault.
Man, there's sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but some people are going to hear you say that and go, no way. No way. He
Mind
because,
blown.
and the reason being is because they won't ask me. They won't get into
They
a
just judge
dialogue
you
with me.
automatically.
They just
Right.
automatically assume because I'm not anti-woman. I love women. I'm anti-feminist.
Yeah.
And
Big
there's
difference.
an extremely important distinction.
Yeah.
I've got 2 daughters. I've got granddaughters. I love females, girls, women. But men are responsible for the feminist movement. And not just because they shirked their duties and weren't paying attention. And, men, I don't know if you might know this or not, Travis, Chris, but we are driven by one primal need more than anything else, and that's the urge to merge. Okay, and I'm not going to get crude, but I'm just saying we are wired for, that's how we're wired, period. People can say whatever they want about that, say it's right, wrong, and it doesn't matter. It's just the fact, and it's an urge that we are responsible to keep under control and to, there's a time and place. But that is, at the end of the day, that's what we are driven by, especially the younger we are. So there's all this stuff there's a mating strategy. Some people call it simping, or maybe you're familiar with that term, but guys will do conflict avoidance to keep the wife happy because there's hopes. If she's happy, I might get some fun
Merging.
time this week. I might get some
Yeah.
merging this week. Okay, we'll call it merging.
Merging.
Yeah. Or
Merging.
we go.
Yeah, we'll talk in business terms.
But that is a mating strategy for men, conflict avoidance. In other words, oh, it's innocent. If she wants to do yoga, I'm going to let her do yoga because she's happy and I might, have fun time this weekend or whatever. And this is a problem. This is a huge problem. And I think that's kind of where this all started. It started innocent enough. I think it came out of, benevolence from men, not malevolence. That, men thought, because the whole thing of women being equal, that doesn't sound bad. Does that sound bad? Men
No?
being equal to women, women being equal to men, women having the same rights as men, all these things. It sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the thought of that, right? The problem is that what happens is that we've got this situation where God set up a structure, set up a hierarchy. And the other thing that a lot of times women hearing me, they'll say, oh, you just want men to be able to control everything. And blah, blah. And I go, men are responsible. At the end of the day, men have God put man over the family, put over the wife over the children. There's a hierarchy. There's the patriarchy. But at the end of the day, men are responsible. Am I right?
You're right. Sorry, I realize it's my phone that's been ringing.
Oh,
I thought that was mine over here.
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
You're good. Should we take a break?
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just going to turn on Do Not Disturb.
Okay. No, mine's been doing it too.
Sorry.
I had,
I totally thought it was like a random.
It's our fan club.
oh man, they know you're on here with
So-
the leader of the He-Man woman haters.
Yeah,
Club.
exactly. So all I'm saying is that it's man's fault. We have failed the women in our lives, whether it's our wives, our daughters, our sisters. We have failed women, and we have not stood up and taken, first of all, the responsibility, assumed the accountability, and it's only through that we then have the leadership to do what's important, to lead our families, to lead our wives first, so that we can protect the family, protect our wives. It's not this, I'm in charge, I'm the boss, you're going to do what I say, you're my slave. That's not it. That's not even close to what it is. It's actually very intimidating. Okay, God, so you're saying my wife and my kid, I'm responsible.
Right.
I'm going to be held accountable for how my family goes. I'm going to be held accountable. Not my wife, not my kids. I am. Holy cow. That ought to scare the crap out of guys.
Yeah.
It really should, because that is a huge responsibility.
And while I very much agree with the sentiment that, men are supposed to lead, they're designed to lead, I would not blame men entirely for feminism, because feminism relies on women not being accountable, and that same line of thought, blaming men for all of feminism, is also not keeping women accountable. I think women need to be held accountable for things a lot more than they are. And even if I don't like it in the moment, when I don't like being held accountable for things, but I know I need it, So, but your intent is so admirable and so correct that why would a woman want to take away that responsibility from a man? Like, I want to honor the men in my life for the responsibility that they have. I want to recognize it. I want to praise them for it. And I want to make their lives hopefully a little easier, or a little bit more decorated, or a little bit more fun and a little bit more beautiful if I possibly can, because that is a burden that is unique to a man that I don't want. I don't want that kind of same burden. That's not my calling. That's not what I've been equipped to do. And it's a very big deal to me in relationships to find men that I really do respect, because as soon as I sense weakness, it's really hard. It's really hard to walk back from that. And so, the more masculine men can be, especially, and, young men who are listening to this, if you are the most masculine version of yourself, you will attract feminine women. You will attract non-combative women. You will attract non-angry, non-feminist women. And that's the type of woman you want. You want a woman to enhance your life. Like Erica Kirk said at the memorial, we're not your slaves, but we are for a husband, not for all men, but for a husband, the encourager, the helper, there's another word she used, but it's escaping me right now, but essentially that support system for you. And so many times, I saw this TikTok comedian lady, she was saying, I went on a really good date with a really masculine guy, and I felt the feminism leaving my body.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a funny sentiment, and haha, we're all laughing at it, and it's great. But it's actually true, because the more masculine a man can be, the more a woman can relax into her own nature and be fine with being a woman, and realize, oh, this is actually so much better trying to be a feminine woman than trying to be a faux masculine man. And you'll find that the women around you relax. They get calmer. They get more loving. They get more caring, more nurturing, and more aligned, if you as a man are aligned too.
If you're a protector,
Fear protector.
That's the thing.
Yep.
Men have to be the protector, and we see a lot of effeminate males. So Travis will attest to this. Words mean things to me. I don't use the term man or the term lady generously, because I think the problem with America today is there's very few men and there's very few ladies. And there's, we got lots of males, we have lots of females, we have lots of effeminate men. The term I coined was post-pubescent boys.
Man-child.
Man-child and things like this. Does this make sense, Chris? I mean, so I reserve the term man and lady for very specific, very unique, and unfortunately very rare individuals in today's society. And, but one of the things about being a man is you have to be a protector. You've got to be capable of protecting your family. And that's a very tall order. You got to be physically capable. You got to be, I think you've got to be mentally, you've got to be a warrior. You got to be proficient with weapons.
You got to be aware of the dangers. That's like the biggest one.
That's one of the biggest things, being aware of what's going on around you.
Yep.
So many people and men or males, they're just not aware of what's going around, and they haven't instilled in their wife or their daughters. You can't go jogging at 4:00 in the morning and $1,200 worth of Lululemon. You can't do it. Well, why can't I have every right to do it? No, I'm not going to allow you to do that because it's stupid. You're going to get raped, and now what's going to happen? Or worse, you're going to get murdered, these types of things. And we have so few guys out there that are actually, especially in today's society, and if you live anywhere near a population center, the dangers out there, and, men, it's our responsibility to be a provider, a protector.
Well, and you speaking to this from he's a former Houston cop doing the beat in downtown Houston, and some of the stories that he shared with me, man, I always had questions, especially when you'd visit what's the Bentop, that hospital. So I know you interviewed a lot of different victims, but a lot of the stories victims. that kind of a similar bent with some of those situations. Yeah, speaking to this too, I saw or it was my wife or somebody showed me where this girl was expressing herself, talking about she loves being a boss babe and do this, but every now and then she just wants to be soft. She just, her engine light came on and then she got a flat tire and she was like, it's moments like these where I really do wish I had a man and stuff like this. So my wife, we were joking about it, and she goes, "Yeah, you're my super adult human pro." That's how she refers to me, because it's funny. Like, she likes that, and I like is probably not even the word, but it's like when decisions have to be made or something has to be analyzed, she likes that she gets that burden off of her and it's mine. And not only do people in my family, I get thanked for stuff that I do, and I always have to remind them, it's not really something to thank me for. Men do need to be appreciated, right? So that's enough for me on its own, but it's a duty, and it's an honorable duty. It does make you feel better than anything else that you do. So I want to segue this conversation a little bit, if y'all don't mind, into kind of this other topic of, and Lily, I don't know if this is something you can speak to with regard to what is behind the mentality of a lot of women that are pushing their children, especially we're noticing in the statistics, the single women, to change genders of a lot of times they're boys, and these huge battles over this. And so can you speak to that a little bit about how the feminist influence is absolutely involved in this mindset of this hate of anything masculine, to where as soon as a boy's born, they don't want the boy, or they want to turn the boy into a girl. I mean, the founding of the gender theory with Dr. John Money, it's kind of in line with these kinds of things. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. We have in the book one example of a feminist who argued for gender selective abortions so that she could figure out if it was a boy, so she could abort. Right. women do this. They want to transition their children because they get rich off of attention. Attention is the currency of women, unfortunately. And if you have a child who has a very rare condition, because that child was born in the wrong body and only you know, and only you can go get all this like medical help to make your child right.
And she's leading the charge.
And yes, and she's unique because only her child has this condition and nobody else really understands. That's a lot of places where people can look in and offer support and sympathy and care and give you the attention that you're wanting. And so growing up as a dancer, musical theater person, my mom was a dancer. My sisters are amazing performers. My brothers are amazing performers. And I don't say this to disparage the vast majority of these kinds of moms, but stage moms, dance moms, that's the exact type that fall prey to this liberal ideology of wanting to transition their children. Have you ever seen a mom who really just wishes she could be the one on stage instead of her kid?
Oh, sure.
We've heard
Right.
the, oh yeah.
I mean, it's just normal. Like, it just happens, right? But when you take that to the most extreme and the mom doesn't have an outlet, maybe she should go start a local theater group or something. But, you know, if women don't have that outlet to express or get the attention that they're wanting, whether it be from their friends or their family or whatever, they're going to find unhealthy ways to channel it. And I think that the most extreme channeling and the most extreme outgrowth of that, you know, white suburban woman seeking attention and validation from her peers and the toxic empathy and progressivism, all of that combined in this like weird soup creates little boys who are victimized by their own mothers. If you have an 18-year-old who thinks that they're the opposite sex than they are, then that's a mentally ill person. But if you have a 3-year-old who thinks they're the opposite sex than they are, then you have a mentally ill parent.
Absolutely.
And talk about the ungodly approach to convince someone that no, you're not okay with who you are and how you were created inherently.
Speak to what do you mean? Speak to that, like
so just the notion that affirming someone's identity, right, but not being okay with who you are and how you were created.
Yeah, why don't we ever give hormone or transition or to the same-sex hormones to people who think they're the opposite gender?
There you go.
Does that ever make sense to me?
That's a good one.
Why don't you give them hormones that actually
Interesting.
affirm the sex that they actually are?
Very interesting.
And then
Great
teach people
point.
you're absolutely okay with who you are and how you were born. There is nothing wrong. I always thought that was just the most evil element to that.
Yeah,
And that,
especially moms convincing their own children
Oh,
that there's
man.
something wrong with who they are, and that's just horrible. What is that? You know, and like my dad is so incredible. He's so amazing. He's such a good dad, such a good girl dad too. I have an older brother, and then there's 3 girls, and then 2 boys after that. So there's 3 girls in a row. So we're a whole handful. But like the only thing, so baby from 0 to 1, all they have to learn is I'm safe. That's all they need to know. That's why mom is with them all the time. But then little girls from 1 to 10, outside of other basic life skills, the most important thing that they know is you are loved and you are worthy of being loved. And only a dad can love a little girl that well. So whenever I see a girl or a woman who has extremely low self-esteem, I'm like, well, clearly your dad didn't love you in a way that he should have. And my heart breaks for women like that. That's so, so, so sad. And, you know, just personally in my time of dating, it's been pretty rough. I've dated, you know, I've had a lot of crazy situations. Not a lot of awesome stuff has gone on. But I'm not a feminist because I was loved so well by my dad when I was young. And I know that a husband will love me in the same way that my dad loved me as a little girl, because he always, every chance he got, he told me I was beautiful, I was worthy of love, and I was currently being loved. And that's all my soul needed to hear for all of my childhood. And I heard that, and I wish that so many other women could have that relationship with the primary man in their life, but a lot of them don't. That's why they typically won't take on another man's last name, is because they didn't get what they needed from their dads. And they think that transferring to someone else's last name is, them admitting defeat. But it's actually not true. It just means that you're under the protection and provision of someone else that you love and trust. So my heart breaks for a lot of feminists. I hope that people listening to this, I'm an anti-feminist. I don't think anything I've said here, maybe outside of the accountability statement, would make you think that I hate women. Not at all.
No.
The opposite, in fact.
Absolutely.
And I really wish that women would be loved by the men in their lives in a way that gives them esteem for the rest of their life.
Man, Lily Kate, this has been an awesome interview. Lots of kudos to you. Thank you so much for joining us in studio. Because, to your point there, is anybody out there hearing anything that sounds hateful? Is there any hateful rhetoric that you're hearing in this room from Mark, from any of this team here? So this is I think you're a perfect example of clear communication. I think there's probably, I do have a few questions. I don't know. Do y'all still have time to go for a few more minutes?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay. Because I do have questions about the reactions that you faced, because when you have the ability to just sit down and talk this out, this really isn't anything radical. You're not saying anything demeaning or hateful or spiteful or anything along those lines. And I imagine a lot of people, they'll come at you, but they don't really want to talk to you, do they?
No, definitely not. They have more fun accusing me of not being a real woman than anything else.
It's unbelievable.
I know. Yeah. I mean, it just is what it is. They call me, I'm like a traitor to my own kind. I'm obviously uneducated. I'm stupid. I'm everything except nice and Christian and feminine. The biggest one that used to happen recently is pick me. It's like a girl who says, please pick me, love me, choose me. And they call me a pick me girl because guys typically agree with what I say and like what I say. And so they assume that I'm only doing it for male validation. And that's just not really that true. I do like validation, especially from the men in my life for sure, but not online. That's not what I need. But
Right.
They call me a pick me because they think that I'm doing what I'm doing and talking about feminism just to get validation from, MGTOW type of men online.
God, so that's how that goes. I was super curious. It sounds like a kind of a narcissistic approach to avoid any type of accountability.
Well, it's just ad hominem attacks, I mean, fallacies are so fun. And once you realize that most people just hurl insults at you because they actually don't know how to articulate anything differently,
Right.
then, everything becomes a whole lot less intimidating. Plus, ever since I was 19 years old, I watched the documentary called The Social Dilemma on Netflix. But by the way, cancel your Netflix subscription and go try Angel
That's
Studios.
right.
But I watched it on Netflix and it was actually quite good. It was talking about the addictive nature of social media. And ever since that night, I turned off every single notification for every app. The only way you can reach me is through text or email. I will only get those notifications. I don't get any other types of notifications, so I don't have that constant negativity. In fact, I actually own a company, which is so funny. I own a company, and I set this company up. It's a social media management company so that I didn't have to manage my own social media anymore. And I have trained girls to help me run my social media. And also, if you are a small business owner, I can help you run your social media and get all your
interest.
different kinds of goals
Okay.
met.
Okay, well, tell them how to get a hold of you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where can
Please,
people
where can
find
people-
you?
So
Promote
funny.
yourself.
Find you.
Go to victoryofUSA.com or go to my Instagram at It's Lily Kate, and then I have like a story highlight that tells you about my business. But yeah, we can run your social media pages. We can run ad campaigns for you and things like that. It's great
What
fun.
were those again? You went
Victory.
fast.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, victoryofUSA.com, and you can just submit like a contact form, or you can go to my Instagram at It's Lily Kate, Lily, the proper way to spell Lily. No offense to your daughter if that's
No.
the wrong way.
Lally.
Lily.
Oh, okay. I spelled it right. So is my daughter too.
Good. We're good there. LILYKATE, and just reach out to me through Instagram, typically in my DMs. But with that, I don't have to see so much of that negativity because I've built systems around myself and around my life to where I don't have to interact with that crap all the time, that negativity all the time. So my personal life is very happy and sweet and peaceful.
That's
Man,
awesome.
I'm
That is fantastic.
taking some notes here, man.
No, this is
some notes here from
really,
Amateur
really,
Hour.
Really awesome.
No.
Okay, I want to ask one quick thing.
All right.
I showed you earlier.
Yeah.
I posted on my Facebook because I'm kind of like I'm a little bit of an antagonist.
You're what's called, I called my dad this too, you're a butter churner.
I'm a butter
A
churner.
butter
You
churner.
like to
That's
churn that butter.
good.
Well, because here's the deal. When we say feminist,
heard
a
that
lot
one
of people don't realize that, I've said, I don't know what percentage it is, but there's a huge number of females who call themselves conservative.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
They're feminists. They're raging feminists. They really are. So I posted this on social media earlier today, and it says, question for our interview with Lily Kate today, : should husbands allow their wives to practice yoga or read horoscopes? And I can tell you that the responses that I've gotten to that, and believe me, it will be blown up by tonight, and it's going to be mostly from females who consider themselves to be conservative, and they're just going to be hating on me. And the other group is going to be a bunch of guys who are a bunch of simps.
Yeah.
Hating
White
on
knighting for all the women.
White
White
knighting.
knighting. That's it.
Anyway, it's a mating strategy.
It totally is. It's so
it's-
funny.
So, just want your opinion real quick on that. Is it okay for a husband to lead his wife and say, honey, no, you're not going to do yoga because that is of the occult. You're not going to be participating in reading horoscopes or any of these. What is your opinion as a traditional lady?
I
No,
got
no, no,
blessed with the term
no,
lady.
you are a lady. I promise you.
That is really
She's a
sweet.
lady, ain't you, Chris? Yes, sir. Yeah, no, you are absolutely.
That is so sweet.
a lady.
I was hoping that I qualified
No,
for that
you
term in your
qualify.
book. That's so sweet. Well, there's two questions there. What should a husband allow, and should a woman do yoga? Let's tackle those separately. The first one, should a woman do yoga? Remember what I said? You can only unironically worship, or ironically worship the devil for so long.
Yep.
We know that yoga has, each of the positions of yoga are based off of an old pagan god, and they're made to be meditations, not stretches. They're made to be meditations to get you to channel the energy of that specific god. And so as you gain consciousness about yoga, and if you're asking the question, should I do yoga? The answer is probably no, because you're slightly aware of the pagan influence that yoga actually has. There are hundreds and thousands of ways to stretch without channeling pagan demons. So I would encourage you to, I have a membership at Hotworks and they offer yoga. I've never done it because I don't want to even dabble in that kind of stuff. They also have a hot stretch class that I take all the time. So there are many ways to stretch and to get your fill for a low intensity workout without using yoga. So I would say I would suggest for you to find a lot of alternatives, because once you have the consciousness of, oh, this actually is based off of an old demonic pagan religion, and each of these positions is actually emulating the like image of one of these demons that we've seen like engraved in rocks and engraved in stuff, right? Each of the positions is emulating one of those, and so you just don't want to have anything to do with that. So that's the first portion of it. You as a woman should not allow yourself to do yoga because all of it's there. And then of course, if you do yoga, you're like, well, okay, but my palm might be telling me something interesting, and oh, well, there's someone who can read my palm, but like it's not really hurting anything. Oh, okay, well now there's an Etsy curse that I think I could buy on my freaking boss who I hate. It's like, okay, well, where does the slippery slope stop? Is the question I would submit. And of course, the larger question is never how close to the line can you get. It's how close to Jesus can you get.
Amen.
So don't try to just continue getting closer and closer to the line, when that's not even the question you should be asking. So that's the first part. The second part is, should husbands allow wives to do certain things? A husband should lead his wife. Absolutely. And if that means putting the parameters up around her and saying, executive decision, I'm sorry, I know you might be pissed off at me because you can't go do yoga and then brunch with the girls and have bottomless mimosas after. But the guardrails are, we don't partake in this as a family for our own protection. So I would say if you try to explain it to her, maybe she'll listen, maybe she won't. And if she doesn't, then that's on her. But yeah, a husband should absolutely lead. And if he needs to say, as a directive, this is something we're not partaking in. That's completely within his right to say that. And not that he should hammer the wife into submission, because it's really never the goal. The goal is to lead her well enough to where she wants to yield and she wants to follow. And sometimes she's going to have to take a little shot across the forehead at her pride. And that's, that's the tension of marriage. I assume. I'm not married. I don't know. But that's the tension of man and woman. That is Eve's curse, having enmity with man, having a conflicting relationship with men, specifically her husband. If you read Genesis chapter 3, Eve's curse is like pains in childbirth, which of course, like as a little kid, I'm like, oh, that's really easy to understand. When you go back through it, you realize that her curse is actually larger than that. It's your desire, and you will desire to control or to be in the position of your husband. And so the eternal conflict, if you're, the eternal conflict surrounding the question, should a husband allow a wife to do this? It's not unique to your situation. It's not new. This has been Eve's struggle since day one. But it is the obligation of a man to be able to lead well enough and have that rapport built with her that if he says, you know what, I don't want you doing yoga, she has enough trust in him, herself, her relationship with the Lord, and also enough brain power to realize that yoga is actually kind of demonic, that she says, you know what, he's making an accurate decision. I'm going to stretch to the side, and then I'm still going to do brunch with my girlfriends, but not have bottomless mimosas.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Awesome.
That you just made my day.
You guys have made my day. This has been tremendous. Very
All
fun.
right.
Thank
no,
you.
this was an awesome interview. Thank you, folks, for tuning into the Defiance Daily Show. We're here with Lily Kate. Very awesome interview. Definitely
Chris.
hope you
Chris
come
is in the
back. Yeah,
audience.
can't forget about
And Chris, shout out to Chris.
Shout out to Chris, man.
We're gonna have Chris back.
No,
tell
you've
Oklahoma
been a
stories.
phenomenal guest. I think we're going to get some good reactions to this. So I want to say God bless you to
Thank you.
everybody
God
as we
bless.
sign off everything.
Thank you.
Stay armed, stay reliable, and get close to God, folks.
Eternal vigilance.
We'll bid you adieu.
Godspeed.
Lily Kate, bid him adieu there.
Thank you. Godspeed.